The little boy hadn't smiled in over 2 years, and the world had already given up on him. On a bright, ordinary morning, beneath the golden sunlight that spilled across the quiet streets, a moment unfolded that would change 3 lives forever. No one passing by could have guessed that a tired single father, struggling just to make ends meet, was about to give a billionaire's son something no amount of money had ever been able to buy. Before we dive into this emotional journey, take a second to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Heartfelt Haven if you truly believe in kindness and second chances, because stories like this remind us what humanity really looks like. James Mitchell had learned long ago that life didn't wait for you to be ready. After losing his wife to a sudden illness, he was left raising his 6-year-old son, Liam, alone. Every day felt like a battle between exhaustion and responsibility. He worked as a maintenance worker at a private rehabilitation center, a job that barely covered rent, food, and his son's school fees. But despite the hardships, James carried a quiet strength inside him, a determination rooted in love. He refused to let his son grow up feeling the emptiness he himself carried. The rehabilitation center where James worked was known for treating high-profile clients. Wealthy families from across the country brought their loved ones there, hoping for miracles. But James had seen enough to know that not all wounds could be healed with money or machines. One morning, as the sun rose gently over the city, a sleek convoy of black cars pulled into the center. Staff rushed to attention, whispering among themselves. A powerful name had arrived. Catherine Monroe, a billionaire businesswoman known not just for her success, but for her fiercely private life. With her was her son, Samuel. Samuel was 8 years old, fragile as glass, with eyes that seemed to carry a silent storm. A tragic accident 2 years earlier had left him unable to walk and barely responsive. The best doctors, the most advanced therapies. Nothing had worked. He lived in a world of silence, disconnected, unreachable. Catherine had tried everything. She had spent millions chasing hope, traveling across continents, consulting specialists, clinging to every possibility. But deep down, exhaustion had begun to replace hope. She was losing her son slowly, painfully, and helplessly. James first saw Samuel when he was fixing a broken handrail near the therapy room. He sat in his wheelchair staring blankly at the sunlight filtering through the window. There was something about his stillness that struck James deeply. It reminded him of the emptiness he had seen in his own son's eyes after losing his mother. Days passed and James couldn't shake the image of that little boy. While others saw a hopeless case, he saw something else, something unspoken, waiting to be reached. James had no medical degree, no special training. But he had something far more powerful. Patience, empathy, and a belief that no soul was ever truly unreachable. One afternoon during his break, he noticed Samuel sitting alone in the garden area. His caretaker had stepped away briefly. The garden was quiet, filled with a soft hum of birds and the rustling of leaves. James hesitated for a moment, then slowly approached. He didn't speak. He didn't try to force anything. Instead, he simply sat down a few feet away and began doing something unexpected. He started playing with a small wooden toy car he had made for his son. The sound of the wheels against the stone path was soft, rhythmic, almost soothing. At first, there was no response. Samuel remained still, his gaze distant. But James continued, not looking at him, not expecting anything. Minutes passed. Then something almost invisible happened. A flicker. His eyes shifted just slightly. It was so subtle that most people would have missed it. But James didn't. The next day, he returned, and the next. Each time he brought something simple, a toy, a paper bird, a soft tune hummed under his breath. He never pushed. He never demanded a reaction. He just existed in his world, quietly, gently. Weeks turned into a silent routine. Then one morning, under the warm glow of the sun, something extraordinary happened. As James rolled the little wooden car toward him, it stopped just inches from his wheelchair. For a moment, everything felt suspended in time. And then Samuel moved his finger. It was small, trembling, uncertain, but it was movement. The car shifted slightly as his finger brushed against it. James froze, his heart pounding. It wasn't just movement. It was connection. Word spread quickly through the center. Doctors were stunned. Therapists couldn't explain it. Catherine was called immediately. When she arrived and saw the footage, she couldn't believe her eyes. Her son, who hadn't responded in years, had reached out. Tears streamed down her face as she rushed to the garden. James stood at a distance, unsure if he had crossed the line. Catherine approached Samuel, her hands shaking. She called his name softly, her voice breaking under the weight of hope and fear. For the first time in years, Samuel's eyes met hers. Not fully, not clearly, but enough. Enough to shatter the wall of despair. Catherine broke down completely, collapsing to her knees beside the wheelchair, holding her son's hand as sobs escaped her uncontrollably. It was the kind of cry that carried years of pain, fear, and love all at once. From that day on, everything changed. James was asked to spend more time with Samuel to continue whatever it was he was doing. But he insisted on keeping things the same, simple, natural, unforced. He brought Liam along sometimes, and the two boys began sharing silent moments together. Liam would talk about his school, his dreams, his favorite games, unaware that his innocent chatter was slowly bringing Samuel back to life. Progress was slow, but it was real. A slight turn of the head, a faint blink in response, a soft grip of the fingers. Each tiny step felt like a miracle. Catherine watched it all, her perspective shifting completely. For the first time, she realized that healing wasn't always about advanced technology or expensive treatments. Sometimes it was about human connection, about being seen, heard, and gently invited back into the world. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold, Samuel did something no one expected. He smiled. It was faint, fragile, but undeniable. Catherine covered her mouth in disbelief, tears flowing freely once again. James stood quietly nearby, his own eyes glistening. In that moment, nothing else mattered. Not wealth, not status, not the past. Just a mother, a son, and the quiet miracle of hope returning. As the days turned into weeks, Samuel's recovery continued. He began responding more, engaging more, slowly reclaiming pieces of himself that had been lost. Catherine offered James anything: money, a better job, a house. But James refused most of it. All he asked for was a stable position at the center and support for his son's education. Because for him, this was never about money. It was about humanity. Now, before we reach the end of this story, if this journey has touched your heart even a little, please take a moment to like, comment, and share this video. Your support helps keep stories like these alive. Then here's something special. Tell us in the comments, do you believe kindness can create miracles? Because sometimes the greatest miracles don't come from power or wealth. They come from the quiet compassion of an ordinary person who simply refuses to give up on someone. On that warm, peaceful day, as laughter slowly returned to a once silent life, one truth became clear.